A first for Irish whiskey and a first for the channel. Actually, a first for YouTube. Not the ice wine, but definitely the whiskey. And when we do things here at Whisky Whiskey, we like to do them right. And in Christy's bar, for that matter. Let's drink some whiskey. Welcome to Whisky and Whiskey. I'm the Whiskey Chaser Brian here in Christy's bar, Kilkenny, of course, the home of Whiskey and Whiskey. How's your week going? So yeah, this little beauty came across my desk within the last few weeks, and I'll be honest, it's not something I ever heard of. The wine, that is. Obviously, I've heard of the whiskey, just the wine, finish. So to say this was new to me would be an understatement. Definitely more information was needed. It was time to get on with the detective work. Let's see what I turned up. This here is the latest release from Writer's Tears, a blended Irish whiskey finished in an Inniskillin Ice Wine cask from Inniskillin Winery in Niagra, Ontario, Canada. This is the Writer's Tears Ice Wine cask finish. I feel it would only be right, before we move forward, is to give a disclaimer. I'm not a wine aficionado nor a wine expert. Another disclaimer, I'm also not a whiskey expert. Rather an enthusiast who thought he might learn a little more about whiskey if he started a YouTube channel, started researching things. Now, I have been known from time to time when I'm at home to dabble in a bit of wine, mostly red, no particular type or anything like that, but I know what I like, and I like what I know, so I keep it simple. Perhaps maybe a nice Montepulciano or a Fleury. It's kind of nice too. That's about it. Anyway, when the press release for this particular whiskey came across my desk at home, I'll admit it was a bit of a head-scratching moment for me. Ice wine, never heard of it. What the hell is it? Didn't even know it was a thing. Luckily for me, the good folks at Walsh Whiskey sent me a couple of samples, along with a lovely little hip flask, not pictured here because I forgot it today, a lapel pin, which I didn't forget, and a nice little Glencairn, along with the sample. Cheers, folks. In the interest of transparency, while the sample was provided to me free of charge, all thoughts still and will remain my own. I'm not influenced by any outside parties, and of course, this bottle is here in Christie's, if at some stage you want to try it. So ice wine, what is it? It's a wine that's sweet, acidic, fresh, and low in alcoholic content. They originated in Germany, but can be found in the USA and very popular in Canada, as well as a few other places around the world. It totally depends on the climate, which the clue for is in the name, kind of. It has to be cold to harvest these grapes, obviously, as the name would suggest. And the ice wine grape is grown on the vine, but the vine needs to be frozen. So temperatures of -10 to 11 degrees Celsius are ideal for harvesting these grapes. And typically speaking, when the grapes are harvested, they're pressed outside so the grapes don't thaw out, which can actually harm the machinery if not done right, or it's too cold. Now, when I say the grapes are frozen onto the vine, I literally mean that. They are practically covered in snow. Photographic evidence that I'm not full of it is now on screen. It's things like this that really do blow my mind, especially when you learn about it for the first time. I might add to the mix that this is also an expensive wine to produce. A lot of things have to happen correctly, even before the weather is taken into account. Not to mention before the wildlife get their grubby little hands and paws on it. It's true. Did I mention that the harvesting of this grape has to happen at night when the grapes are frozen? No, they do. So the fermentation process then, kind of unique as well. There's very little alcohol in this wine, typically about 6%, and it's quite sweet because there's so much sugar in it. Fermentation time is in or around 2 months for this particular wine, the ice wine. I should have mentioned the type of grape that's used for this wine, just realized that, so not so much of a red grape as traditionally, it's more of a white grapes that are used, and the variety tends to be Riesling or the Vidal grape, which is a very common to Canada, Vidal. There are more obviously, but mostly it's those two types of grapes. So the cask then for this whiskey was taken from the Inniskillin Winery in Ontario, which is Canada's leading producer of ice wine, and they predominantly use the Vidal grape variety. Interesting enough, they sourced their casks from a cooperage in France called Berthomeu. I'm making a hames of that, but it's a cooperage that was established in 1906. So you're looking at France, Canada, and then back to Ireland, Carlo, roughly. It was 12 casks in total that were taken from the Inniskillin and brought back to Ireland, where they were filled in May of 2020 with some very lovely blended malt and pot still whiskies by Whisky Whiskey, and they were left to sit for 12 months in these ice wine hogsheads before being bottled at 46% ABV. There's a fantastic little video of that Whisky have produced, which is more like a kind of a vlog. It documents Bernard Walsh's flight over to Canada and his experience in the winery, selecting the casks, filling them, etc. I will leave the link below to that little video for you to check out yourself in your own time. Sadly, this is a very limited release of bottles with a total of 3,500 bottles in the run, destined for the Canadian, US, and Irish markets, priced here at home at 70 euros. Available now, still available at the time of recording this video. Heard many a good thing about this, to be honest. So far, it's turned a few heads. I've read a few comments about it, and I'm looking forward to giving you all my notes on it. Let's get it in the glass and we'll have a small little drink. And before we do that, if you liked any of the knowledge there that I just dropped on you, I'd be most gracious if you could drop a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel to keep up with some new content coming your way. By awesome content, I of course mean awesome whiskey. And we pour. To sum up, we have a first for Irish whiskey, 46% ABV, triple distilled malt and pot still Irish whiskey. That is a non-age statement. Finished for 12 months in ice wine hogshead casks from Inniskillin Winery in Canada. Limited edition, 3,500 bottles, US, Canada, and Irish markets, non-chill filtered, and priced at 70 euro. Pretty sure I got everything there. Oh, before being finished in the ice wine cask, the whiskey was matured in American oak bourbon casks for an undisclosed amount of time. Of course, naturally, Irish. All right, let's get it on the nose. Ooh. Very fresh, very vibrant, with a sugary, sweet, forward initial nose. Pot still spices and a very obvious peach note. Blended into that is a little bit of apple, which I'm guessing is coming from the single malt, and pear. Very, very slight though. And there's a very light hit of nuttiness at the end that is just peeking out ever so slightly. There's a lovely vanilla-ness at the end, which kind of rounds it all off quite nicely, without using that word too much, but there's nothing out of whack here. I tell you what, those pot still spices are really standing their ground too. Let's get it on the palate. Let's launch it. Ooh, florally. That's obvious. Peachy, nutty, not overly spicy. It's there. Fruity. Getting obvious flavors from the oak. While it is sweet and fruity, there's a touch of dryness on the back of the palate as well. But the sweetness is beautiful. Which is matching up nicely with the nose, or the palate kind of confirms what the nose was nosing. Cilantro. Beautiful. That floraliness with the peach is beautiful. Really, really obvious to me. Really, really good. On the finish, lovely fruity finish. Definitely getting a very fresh, kind of vibrant sweetness, a touch. There's a very, very slight touch of creme brulee. And I want to say kind of a touch of dark chocolate on the tongue, on the back of the tongue. Not overly complex, but what's there is very well balanced. That's a very well balanced whiskey. I'm not gonna blow smoke here at all, but that is a really, really lovely whiskey. Very, very drinkable. Not incredibly expensive, and of course, cost is subjective. And when you consider the amount of work that went into this, one might say it was borderline justifiable. I really like what Walsh Whisky have done here. And I've had a few of their offerings, and this one ticks a lot of boxes that I like to see in whiskeys. You have your flavor profile, your price point, debatable, rarity, exoticness, or even, I suppose, innovativeness, which is a far better word to use. Top-notch stuff. Really enjoyed that, and I would have to recommend people try this for their own sakes and see what it's about. I think you'd be very, very pleasantly surprised. Beautiful whiskey. Now, I do have to say many thanks to the folks at Walsh Whisky for sending a sample this way. As always, though, all thoughts are my own, regardless of what was sent. If you've tried this, let me know in the comments section below. What do you think of the whiskey itself? Do you agree with the tasting notes? Do you think it stands out? Is it something you like? Let me know down below. Now, for the US folks and the Canadian, I'm not sure, or Canadian markets, I'm not entirely sure when it's going to be hitting there. I'm guessing soon, so you need to keep an eye out in local stockists for when they do pop up, because they're not going to last long. So that is literally all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed that tasting. Thanks to the good old chaps here in Christy's for letting me make a mess of the place. And I'll catch you all soon. Hope you enjoyed that. Sláinte.